Within this lesson, we're going to look at see what happens when you divide by 10, 100, or 1000. Let's start with this equation of 100 divided by 10 equaling 10. We know that 10 times 10 is 100, so 100 divided by 10 is 10. What we're thinking of here is how many tens are in 100, and there are 10 tens in 100. Thinking of this with the place value chart, we had 100, and what we do here is we need to get a smaller number. So the 100, when we divide it by 10, 100 divided by 10 is actually only worth 110. And that's why I put the 1 over there and a 0 over here. From this 10 divided by 10 is 1 for the ones place. So the same type of thing, if we had 300 divided by 10, thinking about how many tens are in 300, we would end up getting 30, where we would do the same type of thing, where it is that we had 300, and we would shift each of those digits one place over because we are dividing by 10. Here, if we have 1,800 divided by 10, again, what we're going to do, the 1 was in the thousands place, the 8 was in the hundreds place, and we have the 0 in the tens place and this 0 in the ones place. Each of them gets shifted over one place. Into the hundreds, because 1,000 divided by 10 is 100, or 100 divided by 10 is 10, and 10 divided by 10 is into the ones place, and this 0 would get from the ones place actually gets to the tens place, and my decimal point would have been here, so it comes straight down. So 1,800 divided by 10 equals 180. Here we'll use a place value chart. First off, I'll place 13 and 6/10 into my place value chart. If I take 13 and this 1/10, and I'm dividing it by 100, if I was only dividing it by 10, 10 divided by 10 would end up being in the ones place, but since I'm dividing it by 100, the digit actually gets to moved all the way over to the tens place. In other words, 110 divided by 100 is 1/10. And then we have 1/10 right here then. 3 ones divided by 100. 1 divided by 100 already is 100. So 3 ones divided by 100 is 3 hundredths, which 0.13, that 3 hundredths right there. And that 6 tenths also gets shifted. So now I have this number, 0.136. I'll write it in here, and the way we read that is 136 thousandths. 136 thousandths. So that 13 and 6/10 divided by 100 is 136 thousandths. Here I'm going to divide the same number, 87, by 10, then by 100, then by 1,000. When we take 87 and divide it by 10 to begin with, we're looking at those 8 tens. Each 10 divided by 10 becomes worth less. It actually becomes worth one place value it gets shifted. So those tens becomes worth ones. 8 tens becomes worth 7 ones. And then we have 1 divided by 10 is equal to 1/10. That's why that 7 gets shifted. And again, the decimal point would have been here, comes straight down. So that 87 divided by 10 is 8.7. When we take 87 divided by 100, yeah, look at this. Got a fraction here, 87 over 100, 87 hundredths. That's our answer. Let's shift these over, not one place, but 2 places. So it's past the decimal point. 10 divided by 100 is equal to 1/10. So that 8 gets shifted there, 7 gets shifted there, past the decimal point. we'll write a leading 0 there, a 0.87. And then for the last one here, 87 divided by 1,000, not one place to the ones place, not to the tens place, all the way to the, I think it's the hundreds place. I'm going to have to write it in here. Not to the ones place, to the tens place, to the hundreds place. And then to get in the hundreds place, we actually had to have a placeholder here in the tens place of a 0. So it's 0.087. 7 divided by 1,000 has to get all the way over into the thousandths place. That's why the answer is 0.087. Pause the video and take a look at these quotients here. You noticing a pattern when we divide by 10? We divide by 100, or we divide by 1,000? We'll show you one last example of 9.07 divided by 100. Each of these ones divided by 100. We're not dividing by 10, in which case we would have 1 divided by 10, which is a tenth, but we're going 1 divided by 100, which is a hundredth. So each of these 9, this 9 here, each of these ones gets shifted. The 0 gets shifted 2 places over. The 7 gets shifted. And we need a placeholder here so that 9 is worth hundreds. It's worth hundreds. So our answer is 0.0907, or 907 ten-thousandths.